Nam was 24 years old, and had just moved into a small rented room near Thuy Van Beach. Vung Tau. The room was barely 10 square meters, with a tiny window no wider than an outstretched arm, overlooking a quiet alley. At night, the sound of waves echoed rhythmically, mixed with the distant hum of traffic from the main road. That evening, Nam sat with his back against the wall, eating a takeout meal while watching the soft yellow light cast against the wall. Sea breeze drifted through the narrow window slit, carrying the salty scent of the ocean. His phone buzzed constantly. Messages from an old group of friends flooded the screen. Locke, his best friend since high school, sent a voice message with his usual cheerful tone. "Hey Nam, wanna try playing the spirit board tonight? I just found an abandoned house near Dua Beach. Rumor has it it's super haunted." Nam chewed his food and gave a faint smirk. "You've got too much free time. I just finished moving in. Haven't even had a break." Lynn, the only girl in the group, chimed in playfully with a soft teasing voice. "Come on, Nam, it's been forever since we hung out. If you're not scared, why not give it a try?" Nam sighed, leaning his head back against the wall, eyes gazing out the window where the streetlight cast a long streak of glow. "Fine, pick me up in 10 minutes. But I'm telling you now, I'm just watching. I don't believe in that stuff." Less than 15 minutes later, Nam was on the back of Locke's motorbike, the sea wind whipping against his face. The coastal road at night was empty, yellow streetlights stretching in long streaks across the asphalt. The waves crashed distantly, blending with the wind howling past his ears, creating a sensation both fresh and chilling. The abandoned house near Dua Beach sat nestled between two rows of wind-blown coconut trees. Moss covered the walls, parts of the tiled roof had collapsed, and the wooden door dangled loosely. Locals said it used to be a small family guest house, but after a tragic accident 10 years ago, it had been left to rot. No one dared approach. It was said that every night, cries could be heard blending with the sound of the surf. Locke parked the bike and excitedly unzipped his backpack, eyes gleaming like a child. "See? I brought everything we need." Nam folded his arms as he watched his friend pull out a wooden board etched with letters, numbers, and a glass cup. "You're seriously this into it? You made a full Ouija set?" Locke chuckled, pointing at the glass. "Gotta do it right if you want results." They slipped through the creaky wooden door into the damp interior. The musty odor mixed with the scent of salt in the air. Wind whooshed through the broken windows, making eerie whispering sounds like someone murmuring. Kai, the last friend in the group, whispered while shining his flashlight. "This place is creepy. I'd faint if I had to be here alone at night." Nam silently looked around, his eyes settling on the stained walls and sagging ceiling. A strange mix of unease and anticipation stirred in his chest. The four sat in a circle on the dusty floor. Locke lit a candle, its flickering yellow light dancing across their faces. 4 hands rested atop the overturned glass. Locke lowered his voice, eyes half closed. "If anyone is here with us, please give us a sign." The glass stayed still. The ocean wind whistled through the cracks in the wall. Nam smirked and turned to Lin. "See? The wind's stronger than any ghost." Right then, the glass trembled slightly. Lin gasped and instinctively pulled her hand back, eyes wide. "Oh my god, it just moved." Kai glanced at Nam, his voice shaking. Did you see that?" Nam frowned and gave the glass a small push. "It's just the wind, don't imagine things." But when Locke closed his eyes again and repeated the question, the glass began to slowly rotate, stopping at the letter N, then A, then M. The atmosphere shifted, only the distant sound of waves remained. Kai swallowed hard and stammered. It's spelling your name." Nam froze. A chill ran down his spine. Who's messing with us?" The glass moved faster, spinning before stopping at the letter D. Then it fell still. Lin clutched Nam's arm, her voice trembling. I think someone's outside the window." Nam whipped his head around. In the candle's flickering glow, the broken window frame faced the dark grove of coconut trees. Not a soul in sight, but a faint moaning sound, like a soft groan, drifted in from afar, mingling with the waves. A gust of wind burst in, blowing out the candle. The room plunged into thick, impenetrable darkness. Locke yelped and fumbled for his phone to turn on the flashlight. The beam scanned the room, illuminating dust and patches of moss. No one was there. Everyone scrambled to gather their things. As they stepped outside, Nam glanced back one last time. In the shattered window frame, he caught a glimpse of a vague shadowy figure. Standing motionless, its eyes locked on him. On the ride home, Nam remained silent, clutching Locke's waist, letting the cold sea wind lash his face. The image of the haunted house haunted his mind. That night, lying in his tiny rented room, Nam couldn't sleep. The sound of the waves outside felt like they were right next to his ear. In the living area, the glass cup that Locke had left with him suddenly rolled across the table, making a sharp clack. Startled, Nam sat up, eyes wide, staring into the dark. In the corner of the room, it looked as if a shadowy figure was standing still, silently watching him. Nam sat frozen on the bed, heart pounding wildly. His eyes were locked on the corner of the room where he had just seen a shadowy figure. The dim night light cast a soft glow on the floor, but that corner was so dark it seemed to swallow the light whole. Nam swallowed hard, trying to calm himself. It's probably just my imagination. He slowly reached for his phone, turned on the flashlight, and pointed it toward the corner. Silence. Only some old cardboard boxes his parents had left behind when they moved. No figure in sight. Nam let out a shaky breath. But just as he was about to lie back down, the glass cup on the table rolled another turn, making a sharp clack. His phone buzzed. Locke's name lit up on the screen. Nam answered, hearing his friend's excited but slightly trembling voice. "Hey Nam, are you home yet? I just saw the glass on my table move by itself too." Nam shot upright, staring at the cup in front of him. "You too? I thought I was imagining things." Locke went quiet for a moment, then spoke softly. "I've been thinking, maybe it's because of that Ouija game last night." Nam cut him off, voice tight. I don't want to talk about it. Let's deal with it tomorrow." He hung up and yanked the blanket over his head. Outside the window, the waves still crashed steadily, but mixed in were strange, unplaceable sounds, like faint tapping somewhere in the house. Nam tossed and turned all night. Every time he drifted off, a sound startled him awake again, like soft footsteps shuffling outside the living room. The next morning, he woke up late, dark circles under his eyes. As he walked toward the window to let in fresh air, he froze. On the surface of the wooden table was a faint circular mark, like someone had drawn it with their finger. There was no dust in the room, yet the ring stood out clearly against the smooth surface. Nam swallowed, his chest tightening with dread. Right then, his phone rang. Locke again. His voice was hoarse, clearly from lack of sleep. "Nam, did you sleep at all last night?" I didn't dare to." Nam threw on a jacket and stepped out, replying as he walked, "No, something felt off, and this morning I saw a fingerprint circle on my table." Locke sighed over the phone. "Crap, what if that Ouija thing actually worked?" Nam headed to the small cafe at the end of the alley. As he sat on a plastic stool, Lynn arrived too, her hair a bit messy. She dropped her bag onto the table and looked at the two boys with tired eyes. "Did you guys see anything last night? I heard knocking on my door, but when I opened it, no one was there." Kai arrived last, pale as a sheet. I dreamed the glass rolled all the way to my bed. And this morning, there was a ring mark on the floor." The mood at the little cafe turned heavy. Everyone exchanged uneasy glances, a creeping tension settling in. Nam rested his chin on his hand, trying to rationalize. Maybe it's coincidence, or we freaked ourselves out and started hallucinating. Locke scratched his head, voice low. "But how do you explain the glass rolling by itself?" Nam fell silent. In his mind, the image of the shattered window frame at the abandoned house reappeared, the faint figure he thought he saw standing there, watching him. That afternoon, Nam went to work, trying to stay focused while fixing a customer's air conditioner. But the eerie sounds from last night kept looping in his head. By the time he returned to his room that evening, the cold, Uneasy feeling crept back in. He decided to play soft music from his speaker to ease the tension. Melodies filled the tiny room, but as soon as he lay back on the bed, he heard a clack from the table again. The glass had moved. Hands trembling, Nam grabbed his phone to record a video. As he approached, the glass stopped moving, lying still, as if it had never shifted. He took a deep breath, telling himself to stay strong. But that night, when he closed his eyes, Nam dreamed of the abandoned house. The four of them sat in a circle, but in front of them stood a tall, dark shadow. Its head hung low, long arms touching the floor. It slowly turned the glass, one circle, another, and another, until it stopped at the letter N. Nam jolted awake, drenched in cold sweat. Outside, the sea wind whistled through the window crack, and faintly, there was a tapping sound on the tabletop. 3 rhythmic knocks. Again, and again. Nam gripped the blanket tightly, eyes wide open in the dark, fully aware someone else was in that small room with him. The next morning, Nam woke up with puffy eyes from a sleepless night. Sunlight filtered through the small window, casting light onto the table where the glass cup lay silently. The faint circular mark on the tabletop from the night before was still there, like a deliberate stain left behind. Nam took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. I can't let this stuff mess with my head forever. He grabbed a wet cloth to wipe the table, but under the sunlight, the ring became even clearer. Goosebumps rose on Nam's arms. His phone vibrated. Locke was calling, his voice sleepy but tense. Hey Nam, you free? Come to the cafe at the alley's entrance. Lin and Kai are here too. Nam threw on a jacket and stepped outside. The alley was quiet in the morning. Only the sound of a broom sweeping the street by an old lady could be heard. When Nam arrived at the cafe, the 3 friends were already there, looking exhausted. Locke rested his chin on his hand, voice hoarse. Last night I heard knocking on my window. 3 knocks, perfectly spaced, like a machine. I opened it, nothing. But this morning, on the window ledge there was. He trailed off, glancing around, then pulled out his phone to show them a photo. On the ledge was a ring of dust, with a tiny handprint in the center. Lin shivered, wrapping her arms around herself. Oh my God, I had the same thing at my house. Right on the tiles outside my room. I tried scrubbing it off with water, but it wouldn't go away. Kai stammered, eyes staring blankly into his coffee cup. What if we brought something back from that abandoned house? Nam sat silently, the image of the shadow from his dream flashing through his mind. He finally spoke, trying to stay composed. I think we need to talk to someone who understands this stuff. The longer we wait, the worse it might get. Locke frowned. Do you know anyone? Nam thought for a moment, then remembered a man who worked in the next door repair shop once mentioning a spiritual medium on Phuoc Thang Street. She was known for her knowledge of the supernatural and for breaking curses. That afternoon, the group arranged to meet the medium. The road to her house wound through a narrow alley, the faint scent of incense lingering in the air. Her home was an old wooden house, with a shrine crowded with Buddha statues and incense sticks burned down to the base. The medium was in her 50s, hair tied in a bun, eyes sharp and cold. She looked at each of them in turn, then gave a slow nod. You children have meddled with something you shouldn't have. Lin clasped her hands together, voice trembling. We just played with a spirit board. We didn't mean to. The medium interrupted, her voice low but firm. A spirit board is an open door. You invited something in. But you didn't know who you were calling. And you didn't know how to send it back. That glass has now become the link. Locke swallowed hard and asked quietly. So, what do we do now? The medium walked around them, her gaze stopping at Nam. Out of the 4 of you, this one, he's the one being watched. The spirit, it called his name. Nam clenched his fists, a chill running down his spine. Is there any way to stop it from following us? The medium sighed, stepped to the altar, and pulled out a piece of yellow paper covered in symbols. For now, place this charm under your pillow tonight. But remember, you must take the glass and the spirit board to the sea and release them under the moonlight. If not, it will come to each of your homes. The group fell silent, fear crawling into every movement. That night, the four met at a deserted beach near Dua. A pale full moon hung high above, casting a dim glow on the water's surface. Locke carried a backpack with the glass and the wooden board inside. Nam slowly walked to the water's edge, hands trembling as he placed the glass down. "Once we do this, it's over, right?" No one replied, only the sound of the waves and the wind filled the air. Suddenly, as the tide rolled in, the glass tilted and rolled into the water, spinning once before sinking completely. Nam exhaled in relief, but just then, from afar, came 3 sharp knocks, like tapping on a wooden table, echoing from the direction of the abandoned house. The group froze, eyes wide, only able to look at one another. In the moonlight, the coconut trees swayed eerily, and Nam swore he saw a shadowy figure standing still on the steps of the old house, staring at them without blinking. The dry, hollow knocking from the abandoned house echoed across the beach, freezing the entire group in place. The crashing waves lashed the shore, cold enough to pierce the bones. Nam looked at Locke, then at Lin and Kai. No one dared to speak. Locke was the first to regain his composure. He swallowed and forced a weak smile. "It's probably just the wind knocking some boards together." Nam continued staring at the pitch-black house. In the moonlight, its empty windows looked like hollow eyes staring out at the sea. He clenched his fists. "Let's go. Staying here in the cold won't help." The group wheeled their bikes away from the beach. The coastal road at night was deserted. Only the whispering of waves and the stretch of yellow streetlights glowing on the asphalt. Nam sat on the back of Locke's bike, feeling as if a cold presence was clinging to his back the whole way. Once back at his rental room, Nam quickly pulled out the protective charm the medium had given him and placed it under his pillow. He lay still, listening to every sound, hoping the night would finally be peaceful. But around midnight, the soft knocking returned. 3 taps. This time, it didn't come from the table, it came from the window. Nam gripped the blanket, his hands trembling, summoning all his courage. He got up and pulled back the curtain. Outside, the alley was bathed in moonlight. No one was there, but on the small glass pane, a faint circle had appeared, like someone had drawn it with a wet fingertip. Nam stepped back, heart racing. He called Locke, his voice shaky as soon as the line connected. "Locke, are you still up?" I heard the knocking again." Locke's voice was hoarse and tired. "Me too. 3 knocks on my window just now. I saw the faint circle too." Nam slumped to the floor, back against the wall. "The medium said once we let go of the cup and board, it would be over. Why is it still happening?" Right then, Lin messaged the group chat. "I saw someone standing outside my door, but when I opened it, there was no one." A chill ran down Nam's spine. He knew now, for sure, this wasn't over. The next morning, the whole group returned to the medium's house. Their faces were pale and worn from lack of sleep. As soon as she saw them, the medium shook her head. "I told you, you touched something you shouldn't have. It hasn't left." Kai spoke up, voice trembling. "But we threw everything into the sea." "Ma'am?" The medium slowly poured a cup of tea, her eyes fixed on Nam. "There are things, once summoned, if not dismissed properly, they return. That is what we call backlash, known in folklore as bua fan, rebounding charm." Nam swallowed hard, his voice raspy. "Then, what must we do?" The medium closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them, her gaze sharp and cold. "You must return to that house. Find what it wants, then send it off, correctly, with the proper ritual. If not, it won't leave you alone." The air in the small room thickened. Lin clung tightly to Nam's arm, her eyes glistening with tears. I don't want to go back there." Nam placed a hand on her shoulder, trying to reassure her. "If we don't go, it'll keep following us. We have no other choice." That afternoon, the group rode their bikes back toward Dua Beach. The sky was overcast, and the sea breeze blew harder than usual. The abandoned house loomed in the distance, dark and silent among the swaying coconut trees. Locke turned off the engine and looked at Nam. "We're really going in?" Nam took a deep breath and pushed open the rotten wooden door. The musty smell mixed with salt air hit them immediately, so familiar it sent a chill down their spines. The group stepped inside, flashlights sweeping across every corner of the room. Dust floated in the beams of light, and there, on the floor, in the center of the old circle, lay the same glass cup they had thrown into the sea. Inside was glistening seawater, and stuck to the side of the glass was a small piece of paper. With one word written on it, Nam. The whole group froze, breath caught in their throats. No one could say a word. In the shaky flashlight beam, the glass cup shimmered with seawater. Lying in the center of the dusty circle, the piece of paper inside trembled in the breeze. The word, Nam, was scrawled in a messy, rushed handwriting, yet disturbingly clear. Lynn backed up against the wall, her voice trembling. No way, that's the same cup. I saw Locke throw it into the sea with my own eyes. Locke stood frozen, gripping the flashlight tightly. I swear I threw it. I saw it sink. Kai grabbed Nam's hand, his voice cracking. Maybe we should get out of here. Nam, it feels like something's been watching us since we came in. Nam didn't take his eyes off the glass. A chill crept down his spine, but his mind echoed the medium's words. You must take what it wants, then send it off. Nam took a deep breath and slowly stepped forward. No, we have to finish this. Running won't help, it'll just follow us home. He knelt down and carefully picked up the glass. The salty water ran over his hands, ice cold, like melted frost. At that exact moment, a sharp clack echoed from above, and dust rained down on them from the ceiling. Startled, Locke flashed his light upward. A large dark stain had appeared on the ceiling, like a watermark, and at its center, a small circle. Lynn let out a frightened gasp, clinging to Nam's arm. It's drawing circles again. Nam gripped the glass tighter, the trembling traveling from his fingers to his shoulders. He forced himself to speak calmly. Let's go, we need to bring this to the medium now. All four of them bolted outside, the sea wind whistling through the coconut trees like someone whispering laughter. As the motorbike wheels rolled away from Dua Beach, Nam couldn't shake the feeling. Eyes were still watching him from behind. That night, the group gathered at the medium's house. Placing the glass cup on her wooden table, she glanced at the paper inside, her gaze darkening. It hasn't left. It's chosen you. Nam swallowed hard. Ma'am, what do you mean? The medium explained slowly, her voice deep and steady. A rebounding charm happens when the living summon the dead, but the spirit refuses to leave. The name it writes, that's the one it wants to follow. Locke clenched his fists on his lap. Then what do we do? Please, help us. The medium sat in silence for a moment, then stood and opened an old wooden cabinet. Inside was a red thread, a freshly drawn yellow charm, and a small bronze bell. Tonight, you must go alone. Take the glass and the paper back to that house. Ring this bell 3 times. Then leave the cup in the center of the house. Return in the morning. If the cup is gone, the spirit has moved on. Nam's throat was dry. He could barely speak. Lynn looked at him, eyes welling with tears. Nam, it's too dangerous. Let me go with you. Nam shook his head firmly, his eyes resolute. No, she said I had to do it alone. It'll be even worse if you come. As night fell, Nam returned alone to the abandoned house. The moon was hidden behind clouds, and the darkness felt heavier than ever. The waves crashed in the distance, blending with the wind rustling the coconut leaves, like voices murmuring. Nam pushed the door open. The familiar musty smell rushed out. He stepped inside, placed the glass cup in the center of the room, pressed his palms together as the medium instructed, and then rang the bell 3 times. The sound echoed through the empty house and spilled out toward the beach. Silence followed. Then, from somewhere upstairs, 3 knocks answered, slow, deliberate. Nam stood frozen, heart pounding in his chest. Cold sweat trickled down his back. In the faint moonlight, through the shattered window, a tall, thin figure appeared, standing silently, watching him. Its long hair was wild and tangled. Its face was pale and featureless, except for 2 deep, hollow sockets where eyes should have been. Nam gripped the bell tightly and stepped backward, heart thundering. As he reached the yard, the sea wind howled, bending the coconut trees, and from inside the house came the sound of soft knocking, slow, steady, as if bidding him farewell. Nam walked quickly out of the yard of the abandoned house, his breathing ragged. The sandy path to the beach crunched beneath his feet, and the sea wind slapped his face with icy sting. The soft knocking continued behind him, 3 steady beats, then fell silent as he reached the edge of the asphalt road. He got on his motorbike, hands trembling so badly that it took him several tries to insert the key. The engine roared to life, its weak yellow light cutting through the misty sea haze. Nam sped off toward his rented room, still haunted by the image of that pale face and those hollow black eye sockets in the broken window frame. When he reached his room, Nam exhaled with relief. The yellow lights in the alley were still glowing. He shut the door behind him and leaned against the wall, trying to steady his nerves. His phone vibrated. Locke was calling, right as Nam placed the bell on the table. "Nam, did you do it?" Nam's voice was hoarse, still shaking. "Yeah, I left the glass in the middle of the house. Rang the bell 3 times. When I walked out, it was watching me from the window." Silence on the other end. Then Locke sighed, his tone low and serious. "Make sure you keep the charm under your pillow. Try to sleep tonight. If the glass is gone tomorrow, it's over." Nam put down the phone, turned off the main light, and left only the dim nightlight on. The sound of the ocean outside was familiar, but he couldn't sleep. In the dark, he heard the wind hissing through the door cracks, mixed with something else, like whispers. Close to midnight, he began to drift off. In his dream, Nam found himself once again standing inside the abandoned house. Moonlight poured through the broken window. The glass cup lay in the center of the floor, but this time, there was no seawater inside. Instead, there was a new piece of paper, with shaky handwriting that read, "Stay with me." A freezing hand landed on Nam's shoulder. He spun around, and the tall, gaunt figure was right there. The pale face hovered inches from his. This time, its mouth moved, though no sound came out. Nam leaned in, straining to hear. It was calling his name, slowly, dragging each syllable. Nam jolted awake, drenched in cold sweat. The room was dark, only the faint nightlight flickering. Then, the small bronze bell on the table rang softly, ting, though there was no breeze. He shivered, picked up his phone, and checked the time, 3 a.m. Then came the 3 knocks, from the window, slow, deliberate, unmistakable, hands shaking. Nam walked over and pulled back the curtain. Nothing outside, just the dim street lights and rustling leaves in the wind. But on the glass pane, a new faint circle had appeared. This time, in the center of the circle, was a full adult handprint. Every finger clearly defined. The next morning, Nam went to the medium's house. Dark circles under his eyes. His voice was hoarse as he recounted everything. The medium stared at him for a long moment before speaking in a grave tone. "It's latched onto you, but let's see if the glass is still there first." That afternoon, the whole group rode out once more to the abandoned house. The sea wind howled, salty and strong. Inside, their flashlights swept across the room. The glass cup was gone. Lynn gripped Nam's hand, her voice trembling. "So, is it over now?" Nam exhaled, but didn't reply. He stared down at the spot on the floor where the cup had been, and his heart clenched. On the dusty tile was a single clear barefoot print, as if someone had just stepped out of the circle and walked toward the door. The group stood frozen, staring at the barefoot print clearly etched into the dusty floor. It pointed from the dusty circle toward the door, as if someone had just walked out of the house moments earlier. Locke swallowed hard, his voice shaking. Do you think it's outside now?" Lynn clung tightly to Nam's arm, her breath quick and shallow. I'm scared. Nam, what if it follows you home?" Kai darted his eyes around the room, his face pale. "Honestly, I'm done with all of this. Whatever the medium says, we do it. I can't handle this anymore." Nam squeezed Lynn's hand, but his eyes remained fixed on the footprint. A strange heaviness pressed against his chest, part fear, part dread. "Yeah, let's go. We need to ask the medium again." The group quickly stepped outside. The sea wind blew fiercely, bending the coconut trees, the rustling leaves whispering like voices. As Nam climbed onto the motorbike, he glanced back one last time. In the shattered window frame, the tall, shadowy figure was still there, standing silently. Unmoving, Nam gripped the handlebars tighter, choosing not to tell the others what he'd seen. That afternoon, at the medium's house, Nam sat silently, hands clasped tightly. The medium scanned their faces, her eyes settling on him. "I told you, once something is summoned and not sent off properly, it will follow the one it chooses." Locke spoke quickly, worry etched into his voice. "But ma'am, we did everything you said. The cup is gone. Why is it still here?" The medium slowly shook her head. "Gone is only halfway. It stepped out of the house. That means it's free now. And when it's free, it can follow this one." Nam felt a chill race down his spine. Lin clutched his hand, voice trembling. Is there any way to stop it?" "Ma'am?" The medium stood and walked to the altar, lighting an incense stick. The scent of sandalwood filled the room. "There's one last thing. You must return to that house one final time. Bring this charm, and leave behind something deeply tied to you. Only when it accepts that will it let go." Nam clenched his fists. "Something tied to me? Something you've carried for a long time? Hair? A fingernail? Or an item you use the most?" Lin gripped Nam's hand even tighter, eyes welling with tears. "No, I don't want you going any deeper into this." Nam took a deep breath, forcing calm into his voice. "If I don't, it'll never leave us. I don't want you living in fear because of me." The medium opened a drawer and handed Nam a red thread. "When you leave your item, tie this thread around its wrist. That will end the connection, cut the karmic bond." That night, Nam returned alone to the abandoned house. A thick fog blanketed Vung Tau, and the dim street lights barely reached Dua Beach. The house loomed in the darkness, silent, watchful. Nam held a worn-out watch, the one he'd worn since he was 19. He stepped through the doorway, heart heavy. The sound of waves crashing in the distance blended with the whistling wind through the broken roof tiles. He placed the watch in the middle of the room, carefully tying the red thread around its strap. As he stepped back, the 3 knocks echoed again, this time slower, closer, right beside his ear. Nam turned, trembling. In the corner of the room, the tall, gaunt figure emerged from the shadows, walking slowly toward the watch. Each step creaked against the wooden floor. Nam stood frozen, barely breathing. The figure bent down, picked up the watch, then paused, turning its gaze straight at him. A soft ting rang out. The bronze bell in his backpack jingled lightly, though no one had touched it. Suddenly, a strong gust of sea wind slammed through the window, banging it violently. When Nam turned back, the figure was gone. In the center of the room, only the red thread remained, coiled into a perfect circle on the floor. Nam stepped back from the abandoned house, his legs trembling as if he had just escaped a nightmare. Dua Beach at night was nothing but the sound of waves and the sea wind whistling through rows of coconut trees. The pale moon peeked out from behind a veil of clouds, casting a long shadow of him across the sand. He got on his motorbike, his chest heavy. As the bike pulled away from the beach, Nam turned back one last time. The broken window was now just a deep void, no figure watching. But somehow, in his mind, a faint smile appeared, as if something had been left behind inside him. The next morning, Nam didn't go to the medium's house. He slept straight through until noon, his shirt damp with sweat. When he woke, there were several missed calls from Locke and Lin. Nam called back, voice raspy. I'm exhausted. I did what the medium said last night." Locke sounded worried on the other end. "Are you okay? Ever since that spirit board night, you've looked worse and worse. I'm scared you won't be able to take it much longer." Nam rubbed his temples, eyes gazing out the small window of his room. "I don't know, but it still feels like it's around. Not as scary as before, but like it's standing right next to me." Lin messaged him shortly after. "Nam, can I come by tonight and make you some porridge? I'm really worried about you." Nam stared at the message, a warm yet uneasy feeling rising in his chest. He replied, "Okay." That afternoon, Lin arrived, carrying a bag of groceries. As soon as she stepped inside, she frowned. "Your room? Why is it so cold?" Nam gave a tired smile, leaning back against the bed. "It's right by the sea, lots of wind." But Lin suddenly stopped in her tracks, staring at the wooden table. "Nam, did you clean this table?" Nam followed her gaze. On the surface was a faint circle, and right in the center, a red thread, tied into a knot, exactly like the one he had left in the abandoned house the night before. The blood drained from Nam's face. He shot to his feet and back toward the wall. "No way. I left that behind, it can't be here." Lin trembled, phone in hand, but too scared to make the call. "Nam, I think we need to contact the medium right away." By dusk, the whole group was back at the medium's house. This time, as soon as she saw the red string, her brows furrowed. "It didn't accept the offering. It returned it to you." Nam's voice caught in his throat. "But why won't it let me go? I did everything." The medium's tone dropped, her gaze piercing. "It doesn't want an object. It wants you." When caught in a rebounding charm, the spirit sees you as an unresolved connection, a karmic bond not yet broken. Locke let out a frustrated sigh. "So, what now?" The medium turned and retrieved a wooden box. Inside were 3 long incense sticks and a talisman scribbled with twisted symbols. "This is the final step. Tonight, you must return to the house once more. Light these incense sticks and call your name 3 times. If it's ready to leave, the incense will go out. If not..." Her voice trailed off ominously. The room fell silent, only the ticking of the wall clock audible. Nam clenched his fists. "I'll do it." That night, Nam walked alone down the alley toward Dua Beach. He didn't take the motorbike, he wanted to hear everything. The beach was cloaked in mist, the moon barely visible behind thin clouds. The abandoned house loomed in the dark. The wooden door creaked, as if it had been waiting. Nam lit the 3 incense sticks, smoke curled upward in thick coils. He placed them in the center of the room, voice trembling as he said his name 3 times. "Vo Min Nam, Vo Min Nam, Vo Min Nam." The distant waves crashed, the wind hissed through the broken door. Then, silence. In that stillness, Nam felt something, a cold breath on the back of his neck. An invisible hand lightly rested on his shoulder. The incense suddenly went out, snuffed in an instant. Thick black smoke spiraled up into a perfect ring, then vanished into thin air. Nam stood frozen, his heart hammering in his chest. Then, deep within his mind, a voice whispered, long, drawn out, like the breath of the sea. "Stay with me?" Nam slowly backed away from the abandoned house, his legs shaking so badly he nearly tripped on the front step. The night at Dua Beach was silent, only the sound of crashing waves and the wind whistling through the coconut trees. But in his mind, that whispering voice still echoed, clinging to his ears like it had been stitched in. Back at his rented room, Nam collapsed onto the floor, cold sweat soaking his back. He looked around his small, familiar space, but something felt off. Distant, unfamiliar. On the wooden table, the faint circle and the red thread had vanished, leaving behind only a pale, spreading water stain. His phone vibrated. Lin was calling, her voice laced with worry. "Nam, I can't sleep. Are you back in your room yet?" Nam pressed the phone to his ear, trying to keep his voice steady. "Yeah, I'm back. It's fine. Don't worry too much." Lin sniffled softly, her voice breaking. "These past few nights, I keep seeing someone standing outside my door. Every time I open it, no one's there. I'm so scared." Nam closed his eyes, fighting off the exhaustion. "Just hang in there a little longer. I think it's